Welcome back to the Ignore the Template podcast, the only FPL podcast on the entire internet, hosted by me. And if I sound and look tired, if I sound tired to the audio only podcast people and look tired to the YouTube people, that is accurate. So for anybody who didn't tune in last week, I was on vacation last weekend. I was in Austin. It was amazing, very tiring. And then I immediately flew to DC for a work trip. Conference, had to present. I didn't get back until super late last night. Flight got delayed 2 hours. There was maintenance they had to do on the plane. Typical BS, but I say this all because I'm going to try to do that. This is going to be my attempt at the most succinct podcast after I do all this waffle on the entire planet, because we've got a lot to go through. We're going to react to Gameweek 32. Where are we? When are we? What year is this? We're going to be reacting to the previous game week, which had a lot in it. Wild card. Did it go well? Did it flop? Were mistakes made? And now we've got a double game week that we're finally at, which mostly is all planned for, so there's really not a whole lot to discuss. I mean, you're picking between a handful of teams, a handful of players from those teams, so a lot of that should be pretty straightforward. And then we'll wrap the pod and we'll get back onto our regular schedule. So let's review last week. It didn't go very well. Game week 32, negative 12 points, 12-point red arrow, according to Live FPL. And that can be explained in a few ways. So let's just run through the team really quick. Obviously, for anybody tuned in, I was on a wild card. I primarily targeted double game week players. I had kind of flirted with keeping one extra single game week player who ended up getting a brace. That is Igor Thiago. Calvert-Lewin, who would have been the swap. Like, I wouldn't have brought in Calvert-Lewin if I kept Thiago. He did nothing. So while that does suck, I'm hoping that over the double game week and when they play Burnley, game week 25, I think it is, I'm hoping that set of fixtures will give me more points than Thiago will have over the same time period. Of course, we're down a couple of goals, so that's not ideal, and probably in the end it will be proven out to have been a mistake. But yeah, so running through the team. For Bruggen in goal, 9-pointer, happy with that. I had Petrovic on the bench. He got 2 points. I think on paper that was the right play. Obviously, Brighton had the better fixture, and ultimately that was correct. Gabriel, only a 4-pointer. A lot of people might have thought that could have been a good clean sheet potential, but Arsenal ended up bottling that one, for a lack of a better phrase. My brain is fried. I apologize to all the Arsenal fans. But 4 points, fine. He got the defensive contribution. Van Hecke got 5 points, clean sheet, and a yellow card, I think it was. Senesi, a 4-pointer. That's basically what I had expected. I had expected Arsenal to score, and I expected Senesi to get defensive contribution points. Oh, did I even say I got 47 points overall. Again, that was like a 12-point red arrow. My rank went from 35k, and now I'm back up into 50k purgatory. But hopefully I jump back out of it next week with the double game weeks. Bruno Fernandes was my captain, and I guess that was kind of the right decision, apart from if I were to have captained Verbruggen, which I never would have done. But Bruno Fernandes got 4 points, doubled to 8. Semenyo, only 2 points. Palmer, 4 points. Aronson, 5 points. João Pedro with 2, Holland with 2, Calvert-Lewin with 2, and then on the bench, apart from Petrovic, who I already talked about, Tavernier with 2, Sturridge with 2, and the killer, Mark Gehi with 15. So a couple of things could have completely turned the tide around. Number one, if I would have had Thiago instead of Calvert-Lewin, which was on my mind, if you remember back, maybe not last podcast, but maybe the one before, that was definitely a player I thought long term it probably will be best to have kept Thiago, but I think in the short term, And if I'm playing the fixtures, Calvert-Lewin is maybe the edge there. But in this very short-term window, I knew Thiago had the better fixture and the more likelihood of getting points this week, but getting a brace was just killer. So if I would have kept him, I probably would have had a green arrow. If I would have started Mark Gehi, I would have had a green arrow. The quick explainer to that is that if you look at obviously in hindsight, I should have played Mark Gehi. But if we were to reverse the clock, would you have said it was more likely for Gehi to score or one of Semenyo or Erling Haaland to score in that one? And also, on top of that, I was playing a little bit of game theory, zero-sum game, because I had two Chelsea attackers. I was maybe optimistic that we would have seen goals on both ends, so that would have canceled out the clean sheet for Gehi. Obviously, he scored as well, so that doesn't really play into it. But having Semenyo, Haaland, Palmer, and João Pedro, I was hoping for like a 3-3, 4-4. That would have been remarkable. But at the end of the day, it was a 3-0 thrashing, and Semenyo and Haaland didn't get on the score sheet, which sucked. But that was basically. Those were the only things that I think were really in my control that could have changed the outcome this week. And that it was big swings, right? Because Thiago was now a threat to my rank instead of me having him. He got 13 points. I don't know what minus 51% means. Nico O'Reilly, my alternative was Gehi, but I didn't start him. So it really I wasn't utilizing him as a differential pick or like countering the O'Reilly threat to my rank in that way. So yeah, Virgil van Dijk was the other threat to my rank, 9 points. I wasn't ever going to bring him in. I just think Liverpool have been terrible defensively. And while that was a good fixture for them and him in particular, and I think I had Van Dijk on my free hit scout team, I wasn't going to bring him into my team. Now, going through the differentials, the biggest differentials for me were Aaronson, Senesi, and Calvert-Lewin. I guess relatively happy with Aaronson, but it's really more for the double. So just to kind of recap, and again, I'm trying to be as succinct as possible. This was not a good week for me. Big red arrow, minus 16,000, almost 17,000 ranks. And while I anticipated this to be a red arrow week, this was a lot more than I had anticipated. On balance, Gehi and O'Reilly both are not like the goal scorers. It's probably Semenyo and Haaland on any other given day. If you were to simulate that fixture a million times, you probably would get more goals out of Semenyo, Palmer, João Pedro, and Haaland than you would have from the defenders. But it is what it is. That's the outcome we got. And yeah, it stinks. We roll on to Gameweek 33, which is a little bit more straightforward. Now, rolling straight into Gameweek 33, I have my team on fpl.team for the YouTube folks, but for the audio only, I'll read it out. I'm going to be playing bench boost, so formation doesn't really matter. None of this really matters. It all depends on the players, who I'm going to captain, that good stuff. So in goal, I've got Verbruggen against Tottenham away, Chelsea at home. Petrovic against Newcastle away, Leeds at home. In defense, Gabriel against Man City away. Van Hecke, it's got the Brighton fixtures. Senesi's got the Bournemouth fixtures, obviously. I've got Struijk against Wolves at home, Bournemouth away. And Mark Gehi against Arsenal at home, Burnley away. Moving into the midfield, single game weaker, Bruno Fernandes against Chelsea away. Then we've got Semenyo with the City fixtures, Cole Palmer against Manchester United at home, Brighton away. Aaronson got the Leeds fixtures, and Tavernier's got the Bournemouth fixtures. Moving lastly onto the forwards, we've got João Pedro with the Chelsea fixtures, Haaland with the City fixtures, and Calvert-Lewin with the Leeds fixtures, obviously. So refer to the double game weeks if that wasn't clear, but hopefully that makes sense. Playing the bench boost, I think if I was being honest and I was to actually have a starting team, I probably would bench Gabriel for, this is a tough one, Gehi or Struick. Yeah, probably that. And would I bench Bruno Fernandes against Chelsea away for a double game weeker? Probably. This is probably what my team would look like. I would probably play a 4-3-3. Would I have Verbruggen or Petrovic? No, I'd probably have Petrovic. So if I were to actually play without playing the bench boost, basically, I'd have Petrovic, Gehi, Van Hecke, Senesi, Struick, Semenyo, Palmer, Aronson, João Pedro, Haaland, Calvert-Lewin, and on the bench, Verbruggen, Tavernier, Bruno Fernandes, and Gabriel. I think that's perfectly fine for a bench boost. We've got 2 double game weekers. We've got 2 premium players, they're the 2 highest scoring players in the entire game on my bench. So I think there's really no other better time to play the bench boost. I set up for this. I'm going to stick with it. I think that's basically it. The only question left is who to captain. And I think this one's fairly easy. I think really you're just going to be toying between Erling Haaland or Cole Palmer. It's almost certainly going to be some sort of double game weeker. I guess if you wanted to go for a more differential shout, and before I say, I think Haaland is going to be overwhelmingly the highest captain player this week. But if you want to go slightly differential, I think Cole Palmer is probably the next best shout. And then a tier down from that, you could, now we're truly talking about differentials. I would say Semenyo or like maybe a Struick or something. I don't know. Yeah, you're starting to grasp at straws, but really I think it's between Haaland and Palmer, and then maybe Semenyo at a stretch, maybe João Pedro at a stretch. I don't think I'd be going anywhere else apart from that. So before I move on to the result of the scout versus scout competition and what I'm going to put forward as my scout team for Gameweek 33, I have seen some chatter about maybe selling Gabriel. And I think if I was going to do that, the week for me personally would have been last week when I was on a wild card, have the transfers, etc. But I just think, yeah, it stings that he didn't get anything really apart from the defensive contributions against Bournemouth. Arsenal haven't been looking good just in general, but I think that's more from an attacking standpoint. So yeah, thoughts are colliding. But basically what I'm trying to say is, yeah, Gabriel, it stings that he didn't get the points this past week, and this week he doesn't have a good fixture and it's a single game week. But moving forward, the fixtures are really good, and I think he's been one of the highest scoring players in the entire game. I think it would be foolish to swap him out for a double game weeker, which is maybe short-term gain for long-term pain. But yeah, I'd just rather have Gabriel. I think, and I did the math. If he were to get his average point total, there's no one you could bring in that's got a double game week or anything even remotely close to his output that would match what he would get even with the single game weeks. That is assuming he plays the rest of the season, no injuries and all that stuff. But we don't have a crystal ball, so going off of the data, I just think Gabriel is probably the best to keep. I'm going to be keeping him. I'm not going to let the chatter. It would be nice if I had like a free hit, but you can't play the free hit and the bench boost. So because I'm going with bench boost, despite the fact that I have a free transfer, I'm just going to roll it. And we'll look forward to the next double game week and trying to bring in those Crystal Palace players. And to the same token, I have no plans on taking out Bruno Fernandes. I think this conversation is kind of funny considering like, we all know that single game weekers can outscore double game weekers, and they typically, a lot of times they do, not typically, but in many instances they will. So I think I'd rather just bet on Gabriel getting a weird result. Maybe they do get a 0-0 draw against Man City, who knows? But it's more for the rest of the season, not just this short-term thing to make my bench boost look better. Okay, and now moving on to the result of the Scout versus Scout competition from Gameweek 32, I can announce my team was better than the official FPL Scout team. Suck it, official FPL. Yeah, and it was kind of a funny thing because, so this was my team last week, just to refresh everyone's memory, had Verbruggen, Van Hecke, Diouf, Van Dijk, Gabriel, Bruno, Salah, Mitoma, Bowen, Thiago, and Holland. While, oh, what did I just do? Oh, yeah, here it is. Let me make that a little bit bigger. The official FPL Scout team had Verbruggen, Gabriel, O'Reilly, who got a goal and a clean sheet, Mukiele, who got a goal and a clean sheet. I was shaking at that point, but then the rest, they just didn't get anything. Bruno Fernandes got an assist, and Mbumo, I think 1 point. Gibbs White might have gotten 1 or maybe 2 points. Sarr 1 or 2 points. Welbeck 2 points, and then we both had Bowen and Holland, so that kind of canceled out. So really the saviors for me were Thiago, Salah, and then my defense just picking up good points, not great points like O'Reilly and Mukiele. So won that round. I think this team that I put together had 79 points. The official FPL Scout team got 71 points. If I got the math wrong, hit me up, but I think that was correct. And yeah, my brain is mush, so if I did get it wrong, definitely let me know. I apologize, but I think this is correct. So now the question is, because no money is being dispersed this week, what is my team going to do against the official FPL Scout team in this double game week? Because we're probably going to have basically the same team. So I don't know what the official FPL Scout team looks like, but here's what I'm putting up, and I feel like it's pretty straightforward. So running through the official, oh my God, this is why I need to go to bed. So running through my team for the Scout versus official FPL Scout team, I'm going with Petrovic in goal, Gecky, Mark Struick. I don't even know what his first name is. Struick, Senesi, Tavernier, Semenyo, Palmer, Aronson, João Pedro, Holland, and Calvert-Lewin. And then on the bench, I don't know, sometimes they play a bench boost, so I figured I'd just put together a bench that was viable just in case. So my bench is Verbruggen, Enzo Fernandez, Van Hecke, and Kadioglu. Didn't really put much thought into it, to be completely honest. So if the official FPL Scout team plays their bench boost, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Excuse me, I'm burping. I'm all over the place. My brain sucks. This is going to be the team. So yeah, all double game weekers, shock, surprise, and got 6.2 million in the bank because value means absolutely nothing in FPL at the moment. And I think generally speaking, it's fine. The best fixture, I think, or the team with the best double game week fixture is Leeds for me, then followed by Bournemouth. So that's why you could probably follow my logic. I don't have Brighton players. I think they've got a rough go at it. That Tottenham match away is going to be contentious, considering Tottenham are now under De Zerbi, and while Tottenham look incredibly hopeless at the moment, I think there's just going to be a lot more bite in that one. And Chelsea at home, it's probably like a fine fixture, but not ideal. And Man City is kind of mixed. They've got a really difficult fixture, title decider potentially, but then they play Burnley. And just to wrap up all the double game weekers that are relevant, we've got, because who cares about Burnley, we've got Chelsea against Manchester United at home, Brighton away. I think both fixtures are kind of fine. So I'm also going to be captaining Holland for the Scout competition team, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know, I just jerked just then, but I didn't put a great deal of thought. I ran it through the algorithm and did all the data, and it was basically this. I think it might have had a couple differences, but the 3-4-3 was recommended for this week, and these were the set of players that were recommended. So, or mostly these players. I think it had Nico O'Reilly instead of Semenyo, and then it had something weird. I think it might have had Vifer in the midfield instead, and yeah, whatever. But I think this is going to be the better play moving forward, and that's about it. I hope this was a succinct podcast, minimal rambling. Let's kick it to the outro. Assuming I didn't forget anything, I think that's going to wrap the podcast today. Let me just look at the schedule for some normalcy. Hopefully we're getting back to one game a week, or well, I guess we're in a double game week, so it's a bit strange. So Gameweek33 deadline is Saturday at 6 a.m. Eastern time for the Americanos. Gameweek34 is kicking off Friday, April 24th. So that is over a week, right? Is that 2 weeks? Hold on. Nope, I am just purely dumb and brain rotten, so please forgive me. So we've got game kicking off this Saturday for Game Week 33, and then the next deadline will be Friday, the following Friday, April 24th. So that means I'll be able to react to Game Week 33, double Game Week 33. Probably, when does Game Week 33 end? Ends on Wednesday. Okay, so that's why it's going to be a little bit weird and sloppy. It ends on Wednesday, so I'll podcast Wednesday night, release the next podcast Thursday. Oh man, and that does not leave like any time, because obviously Game Week 34 kicks off on Friday. So we're going to have another reaction / planning episode ahead of us. That's fun. So yeah, next week I'll be recording on Wednesday night, releasing on Thursday morning, and then the following game week will kick off in a day, basically. As somebody who podcasts this type of material, I should know that, but I'm still learning. I'm a noob podcaster. Forgive me. And at that, I will close out the pod and hope you all do well in this double game week. I will be back next week on a Thursday or Friday, depending on the schedule. And yeah, Thursday, I guess. And yeah, see y'all next week. Good luck. I hope I do better than you. Bye.